I helped my client lose over 100 pounds in 18 months, and it wasn't what you think. Sarah had tried everything: keto, Weight Watchers, personal trainers, even meal delivery services. She was basically ready to give up. But here's what blew my mind as a registered dietitian. It wasn't about willpower at all. It was about 7 specific psychology shifts that helped her drop to 100 pounds. And 3 of these shifts are completely the opposite of what every diet tells you to do. Like the one shift where we told Sarah to add more instead of taking anything away. I'm Jennifer Broxterman, and I'm a registered dietitian. And today I'm going to show you the exact frameworks I used and the psychology behind each one, and even the specific conversation I had with Sarah when she finally had her breakthrough moment. And if you want the complete psychology and habit formation system behind these shifts that helped her lose 100 pounds, I have a course called Accelerator that covers exactly these methods. Check the first link in the description. But first, let's dive in to shift number 1. The first psychology shift completely changed how Sarah thought about food. Instead of focusing on what she couldn't eat, instead, we focused on what she could add. This is called positive displacement, and here's why it works psychologically. When you focus on restriction, that's all your brain wants to think about. Tell someone, don't think about a pink elephant, and of course, what do they think about? The pink elephant. But when you focus on addition, something really fascinating happens. You naturally start to crowd out the less healthy choices without feeling deprived. Your brain basically doesn't feel like it's being punished. So instead of telling Sarah, no more pizza, we'd say, well, okay, let's just add a big salad to your plate before the pizza. Instead of no more afternoon snacking, it was, okay, well, if you're hungry or wanting to eat at that time, let's do a Greek yogurt with berries at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So Sarah started to look forward to her new healthy habits instead of feeling like she was fighting against herself. She'd tell me things like, I still do have pizza sometimes, but now you've trained me to think about half plate of veggies first, and I want the salad first. And I'm already eating less pizza because I'm just feeling satisfied. The second psychology shift was eye-opening for Sarah, understanding why liquid calories are sabotaging weight loss in a way that most people never realize. So here is the really interesting thing about how your brain works. It doesn't register fullness from liquid calories in the same way that it does from eating solid food. When Sarah was having her Timmy's double-double, her afternoon soda, and her glass of wine with dinner, she was consuming over 800 calories a day that never triggered her fullness signals. It's like her brain couldn't, even see those calories, and her stomach definitely didn't feel them. Actually, let me back up. I think my Canadian slang just came out there, and there's a really fascinating nutrition coaching point kind of buried in that example. For those that might not know what I'm talking about, a Timmy's Double-Double is a classic Tim Hortons order of a coffee with 2 creams and 2 sugars added to the drink. But the amount of cream and sugar they add is titrated up to the size of the drink. So when Sarah ordered her large coffee prepared this way, Timmy's Double-Double, it packed 270 calories, 14 grams of fat, and 30 grams of sugar. So I leveled with Sarah. I actually called her morning coffee a liquid chocolate bar. For reference, she would have been better off eating, a real Snickers chocolate bar, which has 250 calories, 12 grams of fat, 27 grams of sugar. The Snickers chocolate bar shockingly has a better nutrition profile than her daily coffee order. Not that I'd recommend chocolate bars for breakfast. So we worked on cutting out her liquid calories, and we made water her main drink. Now, coffee and tea were fine, just without the added sugars, and that were basically bypassing her hunger cues entirely. Within 2 weeks, we were able to help Sarah cut out 800 plus calories a day that her body never even registered just by changing her drinks. No wonder Sarah always thought she was kind of hungry. Her brain thought she wasn't eating enough because her stomach didn't feel full at all since she was drinking liquid calories. The third psychology shift sounds almost too simple, but it's based on fascinating brain science. Vegetables had become, half of Sarah's plate because of how chewing affects your brain. Here's what most people don't know. The act of chewing sends powerful signals up to your brain that you're working for your food, that you're getting satisfied. Vegetables require more chewing than processed foods, and all of that chewing gives your brain time to register your fullness before you've overeaten. Plus, you're fixing micronutrient deficiencies that might actually be driving those mysterious cravings. So when your body's missing, its key vitamins and minerals, it can keep sending hunger signals even when you've potentially eaten enough calories. So we started really simple, right? Spinach in her morning smoothie, some chopped up carrots and cucumber slices with lunch, and a big healthy salad before dinner. The vegetables activated her satiety or her fullness signals on very few calories. So she naturally started eating less of everything else without any extra willpower required. The fourth psychology shift was Sarah's biggest breakthrough. Understanding that she wasn't actually hungry at night, she was using food as a key stress management tool in her life. So most people think stress eating is just, again, a willpower problem, but it's actually more of a coping mechanism problem. Sarah was eating and drinking her stress away because she'd never learned other ways to process difficult emotions or when she felt tired or overwhelmed. A bad day at work meant wine and takeout. The kids acting up meant, stress eating some cookies while she was making their dinner. The food was serving a psychological purpose that had nothing to do with hunger. So we really honed in on building those non-food ways to meet the same emotional needs. Like nutrition coaching is kind of therapeutic in a way. When Sarah felt overwhelmed, instead of reaching for food, I'd get her to pause and ask herself this question: what do I actually need right now? And we practiced that question over and over as a powerful cue to force her to pause and then really think about what her body needed in that moment. It literally became her mantra whenever cravings and the desire to stress eat hit. Now, sometimes the answer to that question was something like a 5-minute walk around the block. Sometimes it was calling a friend. And sometimes it was just giving herself permission to order the healthy takeout without the guilt spiral. Once Sarah understood the psychology behind her stress eating, she could address the real need instead of just trying to use willpower to grit through and resist the food. And yes, that question really is powerful. So practice it yourself. What do I actually need right now? And if you're a nutrition coach, you totally have my permission to steal that question and use it with your own clients to help them break the stress eating cycle. What do I actually need right now? Okay, the fifth psychology shift became Sarah's golden rule, and it's based on how blood sugar affects your decision making. Protein plus fiber every single time that you eat. So here's the psychology behind this. When your blood sugar spikes and then crashes, it doesn't just affect your energy levels, it affects your brain's ability to make good decisions. Those 3 p.m. energy crashes where you desperately raid the vending machine or maybe your home pantry if you work from home, that's not really hunger. That's your blood sugar crashing and then your brain is starting to panic. The combination of protein plus fiber keeps your blood sugar stable, which keeps your decision-making brain online. So if Sarah wanted an apple as a snack, great, but I'd have her pair it with some nuts or maybe a high-protein yogurt. If she was having oatmeal for breakfast, she would add, Greek yogurt, berries, and then maybe some flax. This wasn't, again, about any form of restriction. It was about keeping her brain in a state where she could make clear-headed choices instead of desperate ones. The result? Sarah's energy stayed stable throughout the day, and she stopped having those intense cravings where she felt completely out of control. So remember, protein plus fiber, they're best friends. Now, the sixth psychology shift required Sarah to completely change her relationship with the scale she kept on the floor in her bathroom. Because here's what the scale was doing to her psychology. It was making her think that her muscle mass didn't matter. Not true, right? Every day, every morning, she'd step on that scale and look down, but she was reinforcing the belief that only weight loss counted, not body composition. But muscle is your metabolic best friend. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn just sitting around doing nothing. More importantly, muscle gives you the shape and the strength that makes you feel confident, and that will affect every other choice you make throughout the day. So we started really simple with some body weight exercises, 2 times a week. Some squats, some wall push-ups, some plank holds for 15, 20 seconds. Nothing too intimidating. And the psychological goal here wasn't just physical strength, but really mental strength. Sarah needed to experience herself as someone who was strong and capable. But here's the coolest part. Over time, I started sending her some at-home strength workouts she could complete with, just a set of dumbbells after her kids went to bed. And Sarah found herself falling in love with 3 times a week evening exercise routine instead of crashing on the couch and watching Netflix. She was hooked, and she loved the time efficiency of training from home without having to leave her kids to go to the gym. Actually, if you want access to some of those free dumbbell workouts I made on YouTube that I share with my own nutrition clients like Sarah to help them lose weight, I'll link it up here, and definitely down below. Okay, so back to Sarah and helping her beat the scale psychology trap by getting her hooked on weight training and building muscle. What happened was fascinating. Sarah's body started changing shape even before the scale moved much. She was sleeping better, she had more energy, and for the first time in years, she felt proud of what her body could do and not just disappointed in it for how it looked. And as her nutrition coach, that was really awesome to see after years of beating herself up on the scale. And finally, the 7th psychology shift. Sarah had to understand that her perfectionism was actually sabotaging her progress. Here's the psychology behind the all or nothing thinking. When you set impossibly high standards, your brain interprets any deviation as complete failure, which then leads to this psychological permission to give up entirely. So if Sarah had a cookie, her brain used to say, well, you've already blown it. You might as well eat cookies all weekend, but Monday, I need you to get back on track. If she missed a workout, it became, you're so inconsistent. This is so hard. Why even try? So I taught Sarah my favorite reframe. I use this with everyone. Better is better, forward is forward. This simple phrase rewired her brain to see progress instead of perfection. A mediocre day where she got, her vegetables and protein in, but maybe missed a workout, was infinitely better than a perfect day followed by 3 days of just giving up completely. So we'd focus on this question. What's something small you can do today that moves you forward? Those small, consistent choices compound over time because your psychology stays positive instead of defeated. Now, again, let's be real. Sarah's transformation took 18 months to lose 100 pounds, but every single week, she was building the identity of someone who takes care of herself. So those are the 7 psychological shifts that help Sarah lose over 100 pounds. But here's what I want you to understand. Knowing these shifts is one thing, but rewiring your own psychology, well, that's everything. So how do you actually change decades of thinking patterns? How do you handle the emotional resistance that inevitably is going to come up when you're trying to lose weight? How do you stay consistent when your old psychology, tries to pull you back in? Well, that's exactly what I teach in my accelerator course. You'll get the complete system for rewiring your own psychology around food, the specific exercises I used with Sarah as her nutrition coach, and all those practical tools to create lasting transformation from the inside out. Check the first link in the description to learn more about Accelerator. Listen, Sarah's story isn't special because she lost 100 pounds. It's special because she finally understood the psychology behind her food choices, which meant she could change them. She didn't need more willpower. She did need better brain psychology. And if you're watching this feeling like nothing has worked for you, it's probably because you've been trying to work on your actions and changing those without changing your psychology first. These 7 shifts are a great place for you to start. If this video helped you understand the psychology behind weight loss, please hit that subscribe button because I share real psychology of sustainable health. No quick fixes, no crazy willpower tricks, just what actually works inside your own brain. I'm registered dietitian Jen Broxterman, and I'll see you in the next one. Now go make one powerful psychology shift today. Bye.